We're going to do something a little bit different today. So I was looking at the transit report, and I really thought, in the context of everything that's going on in the world, the fact that we're really kind of in America knee deep in our Pluto return, which really started January 2020. People keep saying, oh, it's coming up. We're actually kind of already in the thick of it. Return cycles don't happen just on that day when that return piece. It's a process. You have a couple of years up towards the return and a couple of years back, which is why when we go through Saturn cycles or Uranus opposition cycles or Chiron return cycles, it's not just a day. People always wonder, what day is it? It's a cycle. It's a 4-year-ish cycle. And certainly I would say, Pluto return is a big cycle. And it's a cycle that is, by definition, disruptive. And of course, we've got Uranian cycles right now that's also very disruptive. And the purpose of that disruption is to give us an opportunity to realign and grow and expand. So I thought we would talk today about the skill set necessary to navigate through some of these uncertain times. And, some of what we're going to talk about today comes out of my book, The Quantum Human, which is available on Amazon. And if you really don't like reading, if you hang on just a little bit, I'm almost done with recording the audiobook, and the audiobook should be available within the next couple of months. It takes a little bit, but before we get started for today, I just want to set the room and get us aligned. We are going to be referring today to written information. If you want to follow along with written information, or if you want to have a written version of today's report, you can go to my Clubhouse page. It's KarenCurryParker.club. And on that page, you'll have access to a written version of the report. Usually I post a little video there, but this week, since last Friday was my birthday, I gave myself permission to not have to put on makeup this weekend and to just be in my t-shirt with my crazy hair and not make a report. Although we are going to post, I think, Kristen, we decided we're going to post a meditation video instead, or meditation audio instead. Is that right?
Yes.
Did I get that right? Okay, awesome. So you'll still get something. So KarenCurryParker.club, go there. If you haven't signed up for all of our notifications and weekly announcements about the celestial weather for the week, go there. You can also learn more information there about our online membership. It's our club. It's our quantum human design club. You'll find all kinds of great resources there. So check out the Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club. All right. So as I said, we're going to do something a little bit different this week. And I'm going to focus sort of nominally on the transits, but I really want to focus specifically the incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is actually highlighted by the sun and the earth this week. So the human design year is split into 4 creative quarters. Each creative quarter has a task, if you will, that's assigned to us by the gates that are highlighted by the sun and the earth, and those tasks feed a year-long creative process. Incarnation crosses, which are, if you're looking at your chart, are comprised of the top 2 black numbers and the top 2 red numbers, so it's your conscious and unconscious sun and earth, are really what I like to call the plot outline of your personal story, but they're also a plot outline for our global story. We're in the midst of a global cycle. The earth itself goes through global cycles. We are actually about to come to the completion of a global cycle, and in the current global cycle that we're in the incarnation cross of planning. And as we move towards 2027, we actually move into a new global cycle, which gives us a new collective global creative theme. And that new creative global theme is rooted in the incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix, which has the gates 55, the gate of faith, the gate 34, the gate of power, the gate 20, the gate of patience, and the gate 59, the gate of sustainability at its heart. So I want to actually focus this week on the cross of the sleeping phoenix and kind of what that means for us as we look ahead to this big shift that we're actually in the middle of, and what it really means for us, and most importantly, what we can do to navigate and co-create with the shift. And I'm saying this so carefully because, and really so intentionally, because I think that even when we listen to the celestial weather for the week, or we look at the transits for the week, it's really easy to think that we're kind of at the victim of the energies of the planets, that these things are happening to us. And if you understand the quantum physics of how we create in the world, and if you can embrace the idea that the medium through that really is the creative force that works through us is consciousness, and if this is a stretch for you to think about, or this is sort of a new concept for you to think about, I want to bring you back to a book that I want to encourage you to read. It's a book called Quantum Creativity, and it's by Dr. Amit Goswami. And it's a book that I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, and this is a little bit mind-bending science piece, so I promise I'll bring it back to concrete earth piece in just a minute. But one of the things that Dr. Amit Goswami, who is a quantum physicist, has been saying now for more than 40 years is that there is, and this is actually peer-reviewed, there is peer-reviewed science that says consciousnness is the medium that makes everything in quantum physics make sense. And that if we don't factor consciousness into quantum physics doesn't make sense. All those dilemmas that quantum physics has and struggles with doesn't make sense. And what Dr. Amit Goswami says is that this information is really being squelched in the scientific community, because if everybody understood how we harness the power of consciousness and work with consciousness to create, it would literally cause everything that we know to be true and the way in which we structure ourselves on the planet to be 100% different. That includes business, economy, energy, everything we know about the world and how we work in the world would change. Now, I would say, okay, this is one guy saying this. I just finished reading a book by Avi Loeb. His last name is Loeb. He is also, he's an astrophysicist who is from Harvard University, who actually just wrote a book about UFOs, which I think is fascinating. And he very much lays out in his book very similar things to what Amit Goswami is saying, that we know a lot more about quantum physics than we're letting ourselves be exposed to, because the ideas of quantum physics are so mind-bending and so paradigm-shattering that we're not ready yet to integrate them into how we live in the world. But I will tell you, if we look at the transits and what the planets are setting up for us in the next 10 years, we are moving towards becoming quantumly creative. And if you are new to human design, or you don't know this about human design, built into human design is a prophecy, if you will, a blueprint for how our human energy field is actually evolving. And that evolution is actually changing the way in which we create, making us more consciously, quantumly creative. We're already quantumly creative, but we're learning how to use this idea of energy and frequencies and expectation and measuring meanings on the quantum level by consciously using archetypes. We're learning how to create in a very different way. And if you've ever come across any kind of teaching that says your thoughts create your reality, which we've been exposed to this idea for hundreds of years now, and really this idea started to gain momentum really in the 1920s with the New Thought movement, with the teachings of Madame Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner, a little bit later on, Maria Montessori, with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and Unity Church, Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind. Napoleon Hill even wrote Think and Grow Rich, right? All of this idea that consciousness and mind and archetypes and perspectives create our experience of reality. We're growing into this idea more and more as the planets move and as we evolve according to the protocols that they lay out for us. You know, when the solar plexus mutation which is what the prophecy of human design is called, which, as I said in my book, The Quantum Human, I really unpack the nature of how we're shifting and what that shift means. So the solar plexus mutation really began to explain to us in very concrete terms, because I think in the most interesting way, human design is incredibly practical, how this shift works, and most importantly, how it changes the nature of how we create. I want to unpack some of this today, and the way I'm going to unpack it is I'm actually going to read a little bit of an excerpt from my book in conjunction with exploring the transits for the week. So, all right, so as I said, we're going to be looking at the incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix in the context of the solar plexus mutation, and of course, what our unique role is in better serving the evolution of humanity. So, the sun this week transits the gate 59, the gate of sustainability. And so we are being tasked by the sun to make abundant choices that sustain us. And, at the same time, these are also abundant choices that sustain others, because what we know is that you can't be sustainable and not have your neighbor be sustainable, because it just gets messy, right? And it definitely doesn't make things sustainable. If we haven't learned that in the last year and a half since COVID, I don't know what we've learned. We can't be sustainable if we're not all sustainable. Or to quote, you guys have heard me quote the late Paul Wellstone repeatedly in the last few weeks, but the phrase that he created, we all do better when we all do better. By the way, there's even a little song called We All Do Better When We All Do Better. Go look it up on YouTube. It's a great song. That we all do better when we all do better. We're all sustainable when we're all sustainable. If we're not all sustainable, we're not sustainable. And, this gate 59 says, how do we make choices in alignment with sustainability? Now, I do want you to know that this same energy for sustainability is also one of the places where the potential for war and fighting lives in the chart. So if we are not sustainable, if we perceive ourselves in any way as lacking, and this is in a circuitry that's called the tribal circuit. So this is a circuitry that inspires in us deep caring, kind of irrational caring, right? It's the energy that makes you do whatever you have to do to take care of your people, your children, your parents, right? This same quality of intensity, of drive with this energy is, it can compel us to fight each other if we think there's not enough. And certainly, again, that need for abundance is paramount, because it is really the idea of enoughness and sustainability and our own personal enoughness as an element of creating sustainably that also creates the potential for peace. And if we are not sustainable and creating sustainably and sustaining what we have and sharing it, then we put ourselves at risk for the opposite of peace, which is war and fighting. So here's the deal with this week's energy. The Earth highlights the gate 55, the gate of faith. We can't create sustainably without faith. If we don't have faith that we are enough, that there is enough, then we can't share. And consequently, we create reactively, not deliberately, out of panic and in the name of grabbing what we can for ourselves and our loved ones. So if we don't know and trust in our enoughness and we don't have faith in our enoughness, then we're reactive and we're panicking and we're grabbing what we can for ourselves. And of course, this creates, again, the potential for not peace, right? So as I said, I'm going to share an excerpt from my book, The Quantum Human, to help you better understand why mastering the energies of the cross of the sleeping phoenix, and most specifically this week, the gate 59 and the gate 55, are essential if we are going to change the course and the narrative of humanity. So I hope you find this inspiring and clarifying. And when we post the written report, you'll see there are chart images, which I'll refer to. So do go to my Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club, and look at the written report, because on that written report, there will also be images and charts that you can look at so that you can visually follow along. So in the year 2027, we move into a new global cycle that carries the energy of the cross of the sleeping phoenix, that is expressed through the gates 55, the gate 34, the gate 20, and the gate 59. So it's a manifesting generator through the 3420 with the 59 and the 55. So we all gain access to a different kind of an energy. So let's start first by remembering that the 3420, the archetype of the manifesting generator, which is the only channel that comes directly from the sacral to the throat, is the most powerful channel in the entire body graph. It's sustainable manifesting energy. But even though it's power, it's responsive power. So it's not power unless the timing is right. And it's really not powerful unless it's sustainable. So let's just throw that in here. So before I share more information with you about this upcoming global cycle, I want to revisit some ideas about planetary transits and global cycles in particular. Planetary transits bring us themes. I'm concerned, as I talked about earlier, that when we talk about transitory themes, we forget that we are still in integrity with our human nature. If we simply focus on the theme and think we are becoming the theme, we are forgetting who we truly are. So if the human design chart is a blueprint for the human story, we only have to look at the identity center and the will center, both aspects of the heart chakra, to know that we are loving beings. And that pair, we are loving beings. We are designed to love ourselves first as the foundation of our ability to share and to love the full expression of who we are. And each and every life we live is a canvas for the expression of the divine in human form. So we're designed to have a sovereign voice over our own leadership. We are designed to have love as our foundation. We're designed to share love with ourselves, or have love for ourselves and share love with each other. And we are created to fulfill the full expression of who we are. And each and every life we live is a canvas for the expression of the divine in human form. So your story, my story, our story, everybody's story is a canvas for consciousness, the expression of consciousness, right? We are given the ability to define our direction from our personal narrative. We have the power to change our personal narrative if we want to change the direction of our lives. We are designed to work in partnership with Source, and our unique, vital, and irreplaceable role in the cosmic plan gives us the ability to co-create. We're not victims of some capricious program. We are designed to be physically vital and to love ourselves enough to fully embody our bodies. We are designed to love our bodies and to fully enjoy the sensual experience of being alive and testing the limits of being spirits in human form. We are designed to receive all the support and sufficiency we need to completely fulfill our story. Learning to allow ourselves to be supported is one of the lessons we learn from the shift of definition and value in the will center. So the will center, which is a fairly new center, it's really only been part of our human story for about 200-ish years, is really indicating to us that part of our evolutionary challenge right now, and there's a whole chapter on this in the book, is about learning to redefine value. That we have learned to define value through the materialistic lens, which means value becomes money, resources, physical stuff, and we value people depending on how much physical stuff they have. In this new energy, we are learning to define value as being an inherent aspect of every sentient being in the world. And the currency of this new energy is not money, or the metrics is not material stuff, but how much well-being do you have and how much well-being are you sharing with the world? So you are designed, and this is in the chart, to be supported because you are a once-in-a-lifetime cosmic event, and you're actually worthy of support. So take that. If you don't take anything else from today, take that with you. We are also designed to receive all the support and sufficiency we need to completely fulfill our story. We are learning to allow ourselves to be supported, and it's one of the lessons we learn from the shift in definition of the will center. So you're designed to be supported because you are, I already said this, because you're a once-in-a-lifetime cosmic event and you're worthy of support. It's so important, I said it twice. We are designed to, once we've tapped into our own enoughness, to share what we have with others from a place of compassion and without hidden agendas. We share it because it feels good, not because we're trying to prove that we are good. You are good. That's indisputable. We are designed to use our lives to serve the unfolding of the evolution of humanity and each other. We are designed to regulate ourselves so that we can sustain ourselves and be more, have more, and give more. We are designed to care for each other and to make peaceful agreements that allow others to be more, have more, and give more. We are beautifully crafted to live in integrity with who we really are, our authentic selves. And this state of authentic alignment keeps us healthy and thriving and fully embodied in the Earth story. This is who we are. And no matter how the chart shifts and changes or whatever planetary weather might be illuminating the skies, this part of our story doesn't change. And certainly I believe that the transits seek to support us in expanding upon who we are, not altering the basic nature of the human story. Part of why I put this here is because some of the translations of this prophecy, if you will, of human design are pretty bleak and scary and involve a lot of narratives around people living in compounds with guns and fighting for scarce resources. And really, that's such a shadow expression of the potential of this human story. And there's an opportunity here for us to not descend into the shadow, but to really step into an expansion of the light. So, we're also evolving so that we can more fully experience the adventure of living as spiritual beings in human stories. And we are learning to expand our creative potential in phenomenal ways. I definitely believe that the entire cosmos is watching planet Earth and cheering us on. So we're moving into this new 400-year global cycle, the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix, that brings us the learning themes rooted in the incarnation cross of the Sleeping Phoenix. So let's begin our exploration of this cross by first looking at the overall theme of this cross. So there's a small challenge with fleshing out exactly what the energy of this cross is going to bring because, we've been sitting in the cross of planning for 400 years. And that involved the emergence of the will center, and this cross of the Sleeping Phoenix and the changes that are going to be happening are bringing in new ways of being human that we might not really understand yet. So remember, before the will center emerged in 1781, we didn't really know what ego was, right? We were still figuring it out. Now we have these new changes coming, and we don't really know what they're going to be like yet because we don't have that as part of our hardwiring yet, but we can hypothesize, especially if we go back and look at the core nature of who we are based in the heart isn't changing. The G center and the will are not changing. So that drive to take our direction from love and sufficiency and redefine value, that's not changing. And so that becomes the heartbeat, if you will, of the human story. And what's really happening is the rest of the human story is catching up to adjust to this new emergent heartbeat that's we've been working with over the last 200 years that redefines value and sovereignty and direction rooted in compassion. So we can definitely make an educated guess as to what this cross means for us, but the hardwiring of the gates and channels in the cross of the Sleeping Phoenix are all parts of the circuitry that's about to change with the 2027 mutation, bringing us, as I said, a new way of expanding the human story. So think about this for a minute. Before the emergence of the will center and the ability to consciously calibrate the magnetic monopole, it was a very new concept to be able to engineer your own destiny. It's still a pretty new thing on the planet. People didn't have the consciousness and the hardwiring to be able to really comprehend this idea at the beginning of our current global cycle. So as we enter a new global cycle, it's going to be difficult for us to be able to imagine exactly where we're headed and how the world's going to transform in response. But as I said, the one thing that stays constant is the heart of who we are. So just like the mythical phoenix bird, the cross of the sleeping phoenix has the potential through cycles of rebirth and transformation to return to a life in paradise. Certainly the potential for paradise lies in the future of our world. The gates and channels of the cross of the sleeping phoenix tell the story of the potential for transformative, responsive leadership and empowerment that can unify and provide sustainable resources for all when we create with faith and emotional alignment. You might know how we're going to get to where we may not know how we're going to get to what we need, but if we trust and keep ourselves emotionally aligned, the next right step will manifest, and all we have to do is respond to what shows up. So the channel 3420, which in quantum human design is called the channel of responsive power, formerly called the channel of power and charisma, defines both the throat center and the sacral center in this cross. The nature of how this channel functions is going to change as the chart changes in 2027. So currently, this is part of a circuit called the Unifying Circuit or the Integration Circuit in traditional human design. This channel defines, as I said, the archetype of the manifesting generator, and it's the only channel that that connects the sacral directly to the throat center without passing through any other centers. It is the most powerful channel in the chart, giving us the theme of sustainable, responsive energy that is expressed in response to what's needed. The mastery of the theme of this channel teaches us to trust that when our response and power is required, the opportunity to take lead will show itself. So to fully activate this incredible power to do, because it's a doing energy, we have to manage our energy so that it stays sustainable. So this next cycle tasks us with learning how to trust in the timing of the universe. It's not easy for some of us. So we're mastering waiting patiently and preparing to take action and doing that when the timing is right and figuring out what do we do to keep our energy occupied while we wait. We are activating a level of personal empowerment and letting go of playing small. As the chart changes, there's a new circuit, the binary circuit, which if you, again, go to my Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club, download the report for this week, you'll see an image in there, a chart of the binary circuit. In the binary circuit, the channel 3420 gains its direction from the identity center through the gate 10, the gate of self-love, and from the channel 2551, the channel of higher purpose. So basically what happens, there's a new circuit that emerges. If you're familiar with the circuits in human design, really what happens is the integration circuit sort of melds with the centering circuit, and then it also adds the 2838. The channel 3420 in this new configuration gains its power from responding to the needs of others through the sacral center, and it takes its direction from living in alignment with higher purpose and heart. So in other words, one of our major learning themes in the next global cycle is to master unifying ourselves around common spiritual principles that bring us together to respond to the needs of humanity. In the current configuration of the 3420, it's easy to see how one interpretation of this new era that we're entering in might be that we're all hunkered down in bunkers following our own direction. Certainly, even in the new configuration of the binary circuit, people could be selfish. But self-love and alignment with your right place in the cosmic plan, which is actually your higher purpose, is, of course, indeed selfish, but it's a level of selfishness that inevitably defaults to being in service to the expression of love in the world. So this is the higher potential of this expression of 3420 and its ability to sustainably and responsibly put love into action. And ultimately, it's a shift into what I would consider to be a more feminine archetype or feminine style of leadership that is about aligning and caring. The gate 59, the gate of sustainability, is part of the tribal circuit. So we've got this 59 energy. This is where our sun is sitting this week, right? We've got this tribal energy. And this tribal circuitry is in the chart is driven by the theme of caring for others. So tribal circuitry cares deeply. It cares so much that you could potentially die for the people you love, right? That's the depth and the passion that we find in the tribal circuitry. So the flow of this energy in the cross of the sleeping phoenix gives access to that 59 energy all the way up to the throat. So it flows from the 59 through the sacral up to 3420. And of course, it gives that 59 even that much more power. So this gate 59 is an aura busting gate that penetrates the auras with its energy, the auras of others with its energy. So the gate 59 cares that everyone has food and resources and willing to do the work necessary to provide and share. This gate challenges us with learning to make abundant choices that sustain us individually, and at the same time, it allows us to sustain others. So we learn to better collaborate and initiate others into sustainability and into sustainable relationships from a place of sufficiency. And we're learning to share what we have in a sustainable way. So we've got a big cycle that's really teaching us, how do we be enough? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we create enough for ourselves so that we have enough to share? And of course, all of this in a sustainable way, not a boom and bust kind of a way, but as the nature of who we are. So the last gate, so we've talked about the 3420, which is part of the sleeping phoenix. We've talked about the 59. Now we're going to talk about the gate 55. And so the earth this week highlights the gate 55. So we're all grounded in this energy this week. So the last gate in the cross of the sleeping phoenix, the gate 55, is the gate of faith, signifies the final shift in our creative capacity. So to fully unpack this power of the shift, we have to look at all the aspects of the gate 55. The lesson of the gate 55 is to master the ability to hold the emotional frequency of energy and the vision for a creation, and to trust in sufficiency so deeply that you're able to create without limitation. In other words, when we can hold on to an emotional frequency that matches what we want to be experiencing in our lives, we are essentially creating an energetic prayer field that pulls life experiences into our lives that match the frequency of energy that we're holding. Our faith ensures that we do not entertain the fear of lack. So we're standing steady in this faith, right? We're holding this energy. This empowers us to take seemingly impossible leaps of faith with our creativity and gives us the ability to create the solutions to the challenges facing humanity today and beyond. So physically, this gate is associated with the pancreas, digestion, and assimilation, and it signifies ultimately the relationship between source, God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, food, and sustainability and sufficiency. So when we hold the energy of faith, we are literally supported and nurtured on every level. Our connection to source is the sweetness of life. We've got the pancreas in here, right? This digesting the sugar, right? The sweetness of life, and it is the ultimate definition of abundance. We're in the process of redefining abundance, which is a term I'm kind of hesitant to use because I believe our current definition of abundance is rooted in overcompensating for our lack of our own perception of our own enoughness. So our need to prove our enoughness has caused us to overuse resources in a dishonoring and an unbalanced way. If we're defining our value from how much we have, right, and we don't think we're valuable, then we start gathering more stuff because somehow unconsciously or maybe even consciously we think if we've got more stuff, then we're more valuable. We see with the gate 55 the relationship between also food and source. We can enhance our ability to hold higher frequencies of energies by changing the way in which we eat. Unprocessed whole foods, and there's a bunch of stuff in the solar plexus mutation that talks about changing in diet. So we see that unprocessed whole foods that are fresh from the ground enhance our energy, support our bodies, and make it easier for us to actually hold higher frequencies of energy. As you'll see in the next chapter, which I'm not going to read to you today, but if you go get the book, The Quantum Human, you can read it. When we look at the new changes in our body graph, literally our relationship with food is shifting dramatically. When we're holding higher frequencies of energies, we begin to sustain a state of higher alertness and positive expectation. We program our hearts and minds to see the opportunities that match the frequency of energy we're holding. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you know there's a whole physiological chain that supports this process of having high quality beings, using high quality archetypes, using high frequency language, using that language to consciously calibrate the heart into a state of coherence, programming the brain to notice things that match the expectations and the archetypes we're living from, and consequently pulling into our experience things that match those frequencies of energies that we're physiologically holding. Energy medicine practitioners such as homeopaths have always known that higher frequencies of energies can penetrate lower frequencies and elevate them. When we learn to hold higher frequencies of energies, we're better able to lift others up. Both the Gate 34 and the Gate 59 are already aura-busting energies. Adding the elevated frequency of faith to the mix informs us that we're able to lift others up with our own energy during this time of transition, which I do believe for those of you who are listening, who are on this call, who are, really literally doing the work, this is really the work we are doing right now. That's our job right now, is to get ourselves up, get ourselves elevated as high as possible to live from this high frequency place, because this frequency of alignment and authenticity and trust and support and faith is contagious. It's a higher frequency energy that entrains the lower frequencies around us, giving us a greater capacity to amplify the quality of well-being in the world for others. So even though we might feel powerless when we look at the things that are happening on the planet right now that are so disheartening, if we tend to our frequency, it starts to create the frequency of energy on a global level that allows us to start making a different set of choices. Holding that frequency of faith, taking care of your frequency is not the only step. I really have to be clear, because sometimes we get, we start rolling our eyes like, oh, great, well, what is thinking positive going to do for the world? It's not the only step, but it is the primary step. We have to have that frequency of faith in place, because then we see different options. And the next right step following that becomes a step that's in alignment with faith and alignment with the idea of enoughness, and isn't rooted in the idea of needing to prove your value or fight or hoard or defend yourself because there isn't enough. So I always throw this in here because I think it's so fun. Did you know that having a happy neighbor increases your chance of being happy, which is, by the way, a higher frequency of energy by 60%. Okay? Our frequencies, when we stay in a high frequency state, we impact not only the people we love and ourselves, we impact our community, we impact our neighborhood. And when we live in a happy neighborhood, then the neighborhood next door gets happier, and so on and so forth. You can see how this works, right? When we hold a frequency of faith, we calibrate the magnetic monopole, that's the electromagnetic resonance field of the heart, to attract into our experience the things we need to fulfill our faith. Without the fear of lack, we can freely transcend our previous limitations and fear, expanding our creative capacity exponentially. We're able to attract the seemingly impossible by virtue of holding a frequency of energy that aligns with new possibilities from the quantum field. We solidly move from being situationally creative or reactive to living in a constant state of fundamental creativity, being highly deliberate. This gives us the ability to stay in a constant state of resilience. We consciously harness the outflow of high-frequency energy, and we can sustain this energy no matter what's going on around us, ultimately influencing the outcome of what we experience in the world. So just as the cross of service initiated the scientific revolution 400 years ago-ish, and the emergence, of course, of material consciousness, the cross of the sleeping phoenix marks the beginning of a powerful creative revolution and finalizes the advancement from material consciousness to quantum consciousness. So this is the energy we're looking at for the Earth and the Sun this week. So I definitely invite you this week to think about, because we're all about storytelling here. What stories are you telling yourself about your beliefs around your own enoughness? And what stories are you telling yourself about the abundance of the universe? How much faith do you have? Are you willing to lead with faith? Do you have the faith that you are enough and consequently can access enough for you and for others? Do you believe that you deserve to be supported? My hope for you this week is that you remember that you are a once-in-a-lifetime cosmic event, and that because you are a once-in-a-lifetime cosmic event, you are worthy of support and, of course, the full embodiment of in every way. So this week, we've got a little bit of a different twist. Think about faith. Think about the role that faith plays in your creativity. How aligned are you with your faith? How trusting the universe's abundance and working on your behalf, is keeping you moving forward, or is it holding you back? Your lack of faith holding you back from really allowing yourself to fully tap into what it is that you really want to be living from in your life. So let's take some questions. If you guys have thoughts, comments, or questions, just raise your hand. We'll bring you up here on stage. And let's talk. Let's talk about you, your chart, your faith.
And just a reminder, this is...
Hi, Shelly. How are you?
Being recorded.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. This is being recorded. Hi, Shelly. How are you? Hop out.
I'm great. Thank you. This was very informative. My oldest daughter turns 9 tomorrow. So...
Oh, yay. And she's crossing the Sleeping Phoenix, isn't she?
She is. So I took... and I totally see the lack, and it's that she sees, especially because she has 2 younger sisters who are very demanding of attention. And I used to see the lack as, I guess, my husband always says, it's your fault, which I see because he's all about abundance. I'm working on deconditioning lack. But now that we went over this, I see, I guess, different areas of lack coming in that play a part from her chart. So I guess my question is, what are some tips and tools that you have that I can help my 9-year-old?
So, first of all, I will say that, and you may not know this about me, I have 8 children. My oldest is now 30, and I still have a 12-year-old at home. And actually, my oldest son is also cross of the Sleeping Phoenix, and he's a 3-5 profile. And I would say that the thing that I want to just share with you is that parenting is a long-term game. And so don't panic if at 9 she's doing lack. Just continue to repeatedly, year after year, give her the message, hey, honey, there is enough. Look at how much there is. Look at how much we've got. Look at how much, what is working, honey? What are you grateful for, honey? Keep pointing her focus back in that direction, because that's going to be a huge piece for her. Because with that 50 sun and the 59, the expression of the Sleeping Phoenix with the sun and the 59 is the drive to fight. If she thinks there's not enough, it could maybe even add a little bit of a competitive edge to her as the big sister, right? I got to get my fair share. And so constantly just bringing her back to, hey, did you notice how there was more than enough? Did you notice how we had extra left over? Just keep pointing, kind of take her, if you could imagine sort of metaphorically taking her sweet little face in your hands and just keep slowly pointing her eyes back to the enoughness, and do that over time. It should gel. The other piece to remember is that you got to live it yourself. You got to show her, because she's going to learn it a lot more from you if you demonstrate that rather than tell her. So show, don't tell. And then just keep showing her too out loud those places where you're struggling with your own conditioning. To really point out to her, oh, you know what? When I grew up, I was taught this, and I know in my gut that's not right, but that's how I'm still used to living, and I'm trying to rewrite this story for myself. So, I'm part of me is afraid about this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm going to have faith that it's going to be okay. So just keep bringing her back to your own inner dialogue. Don't beat yourself up and think you have to get it perfect. but show her that you're working through it so she knows what working through it looks like. And that's a huge gift you can give her. So I hope that helps, Shelley.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much. And I will start today. And some of it I do feel like I try with, I'm working on this, but there's definitely some other pieces that I will bring in and continue to.
Yeah, it's fun. You're gonna love it. And the other piece that I would just say is, what is her profile, Shelley?
She is 2-4.
So fourth line profile needs stability and foundation. So adding that piece to it, really letting her have a backup plan or letting her have a little extra as a backup will help her learn to trust insufficiency. So, she's going to want to have like emergency backup bubble gum, for example, and you can say, hey, it's okay for you to have your own special stash of gum away from your sisters. Let's put it over here so that next week when you think, oh, I'd like to have some gum, there's going to be some for next week too. Because she needs to, fourth line profiles always need a little extra because it helps them feel secure. And really what you want to do for her is build her sense of security and help her discover what she needs to have to feel secure. And having little extra stashes and backup supplies helps fourth line profiles feel super secure.
I have a big smile on my face. I definitely can see that looking back. And I'm also a 2-4. So even for myself. So very helpful. Thank you.
Good, Shelley. Good. Thank you. Lynette, how about? Let's talk.
Hello. Good morning, Karen.
Hi.
I just got accepted into the group. I'm so glad. I have an incarnation cross of uncertainty, which I do have the 55 and the 59. I'm a 6-2 profile. What the 50, I wanted some more insight because I don't have the 6. I just have the 59. And I do worry. I do coaching, life coaching, and I worry about money, like people that cannot afford. So I always do. Can that role be played out where you can have scholarships and offer people because you just want them to have the information?
Totally. So, this could be a whole hour right here. but it's a tricky thing. And part of why it's tricky is because many of us, and I think especially those of us who happen to identify with being female and who are in a service-based business, we have a tendency, or I think we've been deeply conditioned by a martyrdom model, right? You give and you give and you give until there's nothing left to give. And there's a certain valor, if you will, or value that we get from overgiving. And so, I always have to be mindful when we talk about how do we give and give to everyone without depleting ourselves. And, the metaphor that somebody shared with me recently was give from your saucer, not your cup, right? Fill your own cup enough to overflowing to where the saucer itself is full and you can give from the saucer without depleting your own resources. What that oftentimes translates to, and I don't know how long you've been a coach, but what that oftentimes translates to is grind down now, bear down, and build your foundation deep and wide and sustain yourself first, with the idea that you're building a strong enough foundation to hold a higher place of service. And I think that's a piece that we oftentimes feel guilt and shame about. We feel pressure about. We're like, well, what if I'm not giving? What if I'm not giving? But if you don't have the foundation that's deep enough and strong enough first, it makes it very hard to give in a way that sustains you. And I've seen this, in the 25 plus years that I've been a life coach and watched people martyr themselves. And I've done it myself, for decades. I did it myself, where you give to the point to where you fail to create resources for yourself first, then you can't be sustainably giving. I will tell you now, at this stage of my business growth, I can turn around, and last year we did this. We gave over $250,000 worth of scholarships because we have the foundation and the depth and the strength to absorb it. if I had done that before, I never would have been able to sustain it, and I would have probably run my own business into the ground. So that's the first piece. The second thing that I would say is, this is going to sound skeezy for some of you who may have judgments around marketing, but remember, you have to market if you're going to have a business, and it's an important part of creating a client base. Make your marketing a love letter. Make everything you do with your marketing love. Give through your marketing. So make sure you give information, inspiration. Show your clients or your potential clients something that they can aspire to, and use your life as a living, demonstrative project where you are modeling for the world. This is how we live from a place of well-being. This is how we live from a place of love. Show people what it looks like and give them information. Enough information to get started, even if they don't buy from you. So you certainly can use your marketing as a place of service, but do make sure, I can't stress this enough, do make sure that you take yourself first, especially on the front end of your business, with a long-term view on what can I give back. And don't get lost in the guilt in between when you feel like people can't afford what you have to offer, because you won't sustain yourself if you're giving away and eroding your own foundation first, and you won't be able to give as much in the end. Does that make sense, Lynette?
Yes, it does. And I also have that 45-21 define ego, which I feel that it's always looking out and trying to, the bargains. I don't have an issue charging, but then there's stuff. So I do different things. I'll charge and then I'll do like lower amounts pricing. But you're right, because I got to just sit down and write out a plan, and a long-term plan. But it does have to do with the conditioning. Because I also have that 14 with that gate 14, which I know the resources I will always, and I do if I trust, because I have the 55 too. But when I wobble, when I get scared, I have to remind myself to trust and stay aligned. But it's very true what you just said. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Paige, hop out.
Yeah, hi. I have the 59 red in my Venus, and just curious what I can do to open my receiving channels.
So the Venus highlighting the 59 unconscious means that part of your life purpose is about embodying the value of sustainability. So I would say for you to open your channels of receiving, one of the things that I would encourage you to do, and I know your age, is to really explore, how do you take care of yourself first? That's really the heart of the 59, is that when you can take care of yourself first, and maybe that's not financial at the moment, maybe that's about taking care of your energy first, maybe that's about yourself first. I was a bit joking. I was talking about this yesterday with my 12-year-old. We were in our road trip back in the cabin. Song, I think it's called Soulmate. And the song is I am my own soulmate, right? She buys herself flowers. She looks herself, damn, she's the one, right? There is a certain vital value to really, really, really loving ourselves to that depth, to where we're really almost marrying ourselves, committing to ourselves as part of opening the channels to receptivity. If we're not loving ourselves and we're not valuing ourselves, it's hard for us to receive that flow, because we push it away consciously or unconsciously, because we think, I don't deserve it, or I'm not worth it, or, who am I to? And that imposter syndrome stuff kicks in, and we don't let ourselves really bathe. It's there for us when we stand in our value. Does that make sense, Paige?
Yeah.
So that's your homework. Go find that Lizzo song and then love yourself wildly. So, Janine, last question for today. Hop out. Nice to hear you again.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Karen. Hi, team.
Hi.
Hi. Another informative. It was so much information that I was like, I want to write it down, but I can't. It's like overflowing. Definitely in abundance. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really, really appreciate this room. My question is, you speak of the 34-20, And I wonder how that, I have my subconscious of 3457. So I wonder if that is at all related to what you were talking about. Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding this. Do you have your conscious sun in the 34 and your unconscious sun in the 57? Is that correct?
No, both are unconscious. 3457. So
you mean unconscious in other places in your chart, not in your sun and your earth?
Yes. I just mean the channel is open. Or the channel of 34 and 57 in subconscious.
Got it. Okay, got it. Yes, totally. Okay, so what that means for you is that you have an intuitive response. Your sacral responds when the timing is right. So in a lot of ways, the themes are very similar. The challenge is, because you have the 20 open, is that your ability to communicate the right timing isn't necessarily going to be you initiating that conversation. So you might be sitting there going, wow, I really know that the timing is right for me to take action. But you are not going to be necessarily, depending on what else is in your chart, and I don't see your whole, probably not going to go out running around down the street going, okay, guys, it's time. You have to wait for something to respond to before you can share your intuitive knowingness. The other thing about that 3457 is an incredibly auditory channel. It's a channel that knows when the timing is right. And oftentimes that knowingness comes from your attunement to sound. And you can hear, like in people's voices or how people talk, like what's going on with them and what they need and how you can best address their needs based on your understanding of their voice and the changes and shifts in their voice and their sort of auditory frequencies. So that's actually a gift that you have. And I actually find a lot of 3457s people are either somehow in audio production and sound management or even sound healing. But I think the thing for you is really learning to trust your own inner ear, your own inner voice around when the timing is right. And then when the timing is right, for you to really feel it, drop into it, and then know that when the timing is right, the outer circumstances are going to let you know what the next right step is. And yes, everything we just talked about is going to impact you or is going to be something that's very relevant to you as a leader and as someone who takes leadership in letting people know when the timing is right. Does that make sense, Janine?
Yeah, very much so. If you don't mind, could I ask if this week's report is written somewhere? That I would love to read it.
Totally. So if you go to my Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club, the written report is there. And also everything that I read today is out of my book, The Quantum Human, which you might also find interesting as well. So,
and then we also share the replay of this Clubhouse on Karen's YouTube channel. It's Karen Curry Parker on YouTube, and you can always listen to this there as well after.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I actually tried to look for the club, but it's not listed as, do you mean the club on Clubhouse? Or is it a separate club somewhere else? Because I tried to look on Clubhouse and I did not find it.
If you go to your web browser and type in KarenCurryParker.club, the report will be there in probably just a couple of hours. So KarenCurryParker.club.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
That's okay.
It's the club thing.
It is. It's the club thing. Anyway, speaking of the club thing, we have to say goodbye to the club thing for this week because Jamie and I need to go jump onto another call. So thank you all so much again for being here. I hope you have a great, great week. I hope you practice staying in alignment with high frequency energies, positive expectations, and the power of faith. And I will be here next week with all of you, and we'll have a normal human design report next week. So anyway, have a great week, you guys. Thank you all. I will see you next week.